Many of you who have watched my videos realize that I've taught college courses for over a decade, and I love the courses that I teach, and I love my students even more. And some of the classes I taught were communication between the sexes, couples, relationship courses, and so much more. One of the courses that I taught, I would put the girls in one half of the room and the guys in another half of the room, and the first day of class I would have them give me 3 questions that you always wanted to know of the opposite sex. So I'd get a list of questions the girls wanted to ask of the guys and a list of questions the guys wanted to ask of the girls. And recently I pulled that list out. I would add to it each year, and you'd probably be surprised to hear, maybe not, some of the questions. For women, what they want to know about men. Why do some men feel the need not to express their emotions and or talk about them with others? Another question, what is so big about your man cave? Or another one said, why do men sometimes catcall? Why do men make you feel secure and then drop you? Why do men lie so much? I'm like, wow, I didn't realize, because I didn't always feel this way. Maybe that's a generational thing. So it's really fun. Question 32, why do guys think all women are too emotional? So much fun. And what we would do is we'd go through the semester and I would say to them, by the end of the semester, all of these questions should be answered. If not, we would answer them. Day 2, we would actually have some of the guys answer some of the girls' questions and some of the girls answer the guys. They would just raise their hand and give their opinions. Best conversations ever. The guys had their list of questions too, which is really funny because I would always put them together, and the girls always had the same or similar types of questions, and the guys always had as well. Guys, what they want to know about women. Number 1 is so funny. Why do most women never know what they want to eat? Why do women get haircuts if they always regret them? It's right away you can see the difference in women's questions versus guys. Guys is just matter of fact. Number 4, why is it okay for women to make jokes about men, but it's not okay for men to make jokes about women? Good question. So what I'd like to do through some of my videos is, today I was preparing for a different one and I had pulled this out and I thought, you know what, I'm going to go through and answer some of these questions throughout my videos. But one of the things I began my class with always was talking about the difference between the male and the female brain. I would talk about the structural and the hormonal differences between the two brains. So right there, we have this craziness going on about transgenderism and sexuality and who we are. And there's just no possible way that a man can be born in the wrong body or female, because our brains are so different. This isn't the conversation I'm not even talking about that at this point. What I just want to do is illuminate what are some of the differences. And today I'm focusing on one specific question, which I'll get to in a moment. But I wanted to talk about one of the structural differences between the male and the female brain. I have a whole list of them. But for instance, structurally, the males have a much larger hypothalamus. And the hypothalamus, if you know anything about the brain, is the brain's sex center. So you're like, well, duh, of course dudes are bigger. Maybe you didn't know. It's funny because it's a marble-sized part of the brain, but it's so much bigger in the man's. My husband jokes that, well, yours is probably the size of a mustard seed then. You know, things like that. Guys make so many jokes. But seriously, 6 times bigger in the man. And the hypothalamus is, well, let me just put that aside. Okay, so the hypothalamus, we both have one, but it's bigger and more active in the male brain. For the women, we have a bigger hippocampus. And when I would teach my students, I'd say, okay, the easiest way to remember that is men are hyposexualized, it seems, and women always feel like they're a hippopotamus, right? Oh, I feel I'm so fat. So the hippocampus is bigger in the women. Well, what's in the hippocampus? The hippocampus is and the amygdala, right? So both of these two parts of this section receive and process and store emotional memory. So when I went through those questions, guys are always asking about, why do women feel this way? Why are they so emotional? Why are they always crying? Well, just that difference alone would help my guys to go, oh. And it would help validate the women going, all right, I get it. So I will do a video in time, maybe just about those differences. I've done some already that kind of touch on those two parts of the brain, that the women retain emotional memories. I'm going to go a little bit more in depth in that at some point. But today, I wanted to focus a little bit on the structure and hormonal differences that make women and men. What does it mean to be secure? Now, I'll be very honest and straight up. One of my favorite books to read, because I joke about Blonded Down for me, because I always liked to learn, but I don't like lofty theoretical knowledge. I want something that is easy to understand. And one of my favorite books was this one by Walt and Barb Larimore. It's called His Brain, Her Brain. He's a doctor, and he and his daughter-in-law, I believe, was some other kind of neuro doctor, scientist, something. And so she and he would collaborate to write down in a more blonde manner to understand the differences in the brain. So one of the things that I learned about the structure and hormonal differences, and by the way, you might be thinking, well, maybe that's what they said then. Good science hasn't changed. Good science is actually showing this to be true. And we've got people trying to fight and say, oh, no, the brain is socialized. No, the brain is coming out completely different when we're born. It's completely different when we are in the womb. A family member of mine always tries to argue, no, it's because you treat them different. I'm like, no. You look at your sons, they come out always wrestling and punching each other, and your daughter is always trying to look at herself and be, prissy, and you didn't breed that into her. You breeded, this just came out that way. But so the thing I wanted to talk about real quickly, and I'm always trying to keep these videos under 10 minutes, and I think I'm failing, is about provision and security. The male brain is more wired to provide and to protect. And the woman's brain is more inclined to want to feel secure. But what happened is we'd often think about that in terms of money. And that is statistical. A woman is more attracted to a man who can provide for her financially. You can make $300,000, but as long as your husband is able to provide, your income is not necessarily necessary. That's what women tend to find more important. Women want to work outside the home, many of us, but there's also this innate need for women to know that if I wanted to stay home, I could, because there have been studies that have shown that women are less happy if their husband is not able to provide for their needs and their choices taken away. It has actually shown that women are happier when they feel emotionally secure, emotionally protected by their husbands than when they feel financially protected. Some of the statistics that I would like to read to you, and I do not want to mess them up, so I'm literally just going to read them from this book so they can get the credit where credit is due, where it's due. It says, studies have shown this. Women divorce men who are not ambitious and do not work steadily at good jobs. Number 2, a husband rarely feels good when his wife supports him financially. Number 3, couples with ambitious wives or those who have increasing income are more likely to divorce, right? When the woman makes more than the guy. Number 4, young, highly educated, and occupationally successful fathers in dual career marriages are less satisfied with their work, marriages, and personal lives than similar men who are sole providers. 2 more before I start talking. When both spouses work, couples report that it's easier for the marriage when the wife's career is less financially successful than her husband's. Most women hold this view because, number 1, they believe the husband's work is more important to his sense of self, which is true, and number 2, they need their husband to be successful. And the last one, couples will go to great lengths to conceal a high-earning wife's income simply to protect the husband's status as a primary provider. Those are stats. When we talk about provision and protection, there are suicide rates also attached. Women are more likely to commit suicide due to relational reasons. Men are more likely to commit suicide due to the inability to provide. So God made our brains different, and so we can't ignore what God tried to do. And so I'm a very strong type A female. I've worked, but then I've also stayed home. I stayed home when I was forced to stay home because there were no jobs in Italy when we lived there for military spouses. And it changed my life. I was able to go to school. I started this career, and I could be with my children. I always thought I wanted to be at work, but there was nothing like being able to be home with my children while I was doing the things that I needed to do to support the family. You can read more about this in terms of women preferring to take care of the homes. I'll talk about that in future videos about nurturing and different hormones. But when I talk specifically about provision and protection, what that means is it's not just financial protection. I just had another couple in my office the other day, and they talked about, the woman said, I want to be able to feel secure, like you have my back. Understanding for men how to financially provide and protect is so much easier because it's black and white, it's tangible. But what does it mean to be an emotional provider? Well, what it means is a wife wants to feel safe. I want to feel safe that I know that if a bus came, you'd push me out of the way and you'd take the bus. But I don't feel safe that when we're in public, that you don't throw me under the bus in front of my friends. Now, my husband always used to think he was joking and funny, but he would always say things like, all my wife does is complain that I don't do such and such. That didn't make me feel safe. That made me feel like I was being thrown under the bus, like I wasn't a good wife. And my husband didn't understand that at first, and I hear this from a lot of women. I want you to protect my image. I don't want you to make me sound like some kind of a witch. I want you to make me sound like, you know what, women are highly attracted to the men that be like, love my wife, she is so good at such and such. To say these things publicly, we'd all be like, oh, that's such a good husband, oh, that's such a good marriage. Whether he was lying or not, but he instinctually or had practice knowing publicly I need to protect my wife. If she's a messy housekeeper, I'm not going to tell somebody. I'm going to say something like, well, she may not be the best at housekeeping, but she's a fantastic cook and she makes me happy. So these are the ways that women are looking for men to protect them. How can you provide me with security emotionally? I talked to one family where the daughter was really, really nasty to her mom at one point, and they had a big fight, and that daughter called out, Mom, you're such a witch, except for she didn't use that word, she used a different one. The wife was stunned that the daughter could say that, and what hurt her more, she defended herself, and she told her daughter, don't you ever speak to me that way. But what hurt her more is that her husband was right there in the room, and he said nothing. He said nothing. Later, he couldn't understand why the wife was more upset with him than he was at their daughter. Than she was at the daughter. She was absolutely upset with their daughter. They didn't speak for a while, and she said, don't you ever disrespect me. But when she questioned the husband, how dare you? He was like, what did I do? You two were at it. I'm just going to let you deal with it. I didn't want to interrupt. And that's where the wife said, why would you not interrupt? Why would you let our daughter call me that? Well, they're her mother. You are supposed to protect me, even from our child's words. So this might be just a beginning for you, but this has been something I've seen again and again and again with clients in my office, people talking to me. My husband doesn't make me feel secure. Oh yeah, he'll take a bullet for me, great. But how often is a bank robber going to stand in front of me with a gun? I want to feel secure that I'm not being made to feel like this awful human being, or that my flaws are out there, or that I'm, as I gave the example of, okay, I'm a messy housekeeper, and that gets out there. Husbands, if you're trying to figure out how to make your wife feel secure, she would so much more, and again, studies prove it, rather you make her feel safe, secure, and provided for emotionally. And that's by developing trust. I trust that you have my back. I trust that you wouldn't lie to me husband. I trust that you will tell me the truth about your feelings or your struggles. Because if I trust that you are telling me the truth when it's not good, I can believe you in other situations. You might be thinking, well, she should believe me anyway. But if you hold back your emotions, your feelings, your thoughts on vulnerable or work situations or things where you might be a little bit vulnerable or hurt or insecure, if you hold those back from me, that means you don't trust me with those feelings, thoughts. And if I think you don't trust me, I can't trust you, and therefore I don't feel safe and secure. Again, these videos, see, this one's already gone 16 minutes. There's so much to know about the differences between males and females. God made these decisions. God wired us differently, and he did it on purpose. Do you think he made the male's brain more inclined to provide and protect, and then just kind of throw the women out there? No, he also made the female's brain more desirous of being cared for, of being covered, of being safer with the man. That's why God gave men the headship of the family. He said, I will make you the head, but I'm going to give you higher priorities. Your job is to protect this woman, not just financially, not just by giving her a good home, not just the bullet or pushing her out in front of the bus. You need to provide for her emotional needs because I, the Lord your God, made her more emotional. So you need to learn from that and love her enough to figure out, know her inside and out. Of course, you can never know her perfectly. But if you love her, you will seek to know her perfectly. You'll communicate, you'll connect. So I ask you this. Here's your challenge. Men, I ask you to go and ask your wives a single question. Do I make you feel safe and secure? See what she says. See if she answers about finances. See if she answers about emotions. Just ask her that. Do I make you feel safe and secure? Ladies, if it's you watching the video, forward it to your husband. Maybe if he doesn't want to watch a whole 20-minute video, fast forward to this point and ask him to answer this question. It'll start a great conversation. But we're not the same. And ladies, you have a responsibility as well to communicate, because remember, our brains are so much more complex. And you can't just get mad at him for not knowing something. He's not good at it. Your job too is to love and support him. Teach him. Teach him how to understand. Teach him what your signs are. Teach him what your signals are. And do not make assumptions that he knows or should know what you're trying to say. Be direct, be clear, but be loving, be supportive. So that's today's lesson, providing and protecting, just like God does. He is the bridegroom. He provides and protects for his bride. And we are his bride. We are to love him, surrender to him, submit to him. So, find it a little bit confusing? Want a little bit more information? Give me a call. Find me at Christine@breakfastwithbacon.com, and I'd love to help work with you through this issue and whatever issues you have in your relationship. So, I'm Dr. Christine Bacon. I'm so grateful you were watching this episode of Breakfast with Bacon. And I'd like to remind you to continue to live your life sunny side up.